Have you guys ever heard of this YouTuber called the Vegan Teacher? Has anyone ever heard of the Vegan Teacher before? I normally don't do videos to vegans or whatever, but I saw that there was this entity known as the Vegan Teacher out there, and she makes a lot of content that is designed to irritate, infuriate, annoy, and garner attention for herself. But this was recently brought to my attention.
September 11th. On this day in history.
That's right. She's going there. Here, I'll put myself here. I'll put myself over the pig because I identify with the pig.
Thousands of people were killed. The vast majority of these people had already been killers themselves.
Yeah. That's the line. That's what we're going with, man.
They paid for the rape, torture, confinement, terror, and murder of innocent animals who were in their intestines at the moment the planes crashed into them. Facts don't care about your feelings. These are the facts. Because they died, many animals were saved. Think about this for a moment before you respond.
Okay, I'm going to think about it for a moment before I respond. I'll let you finish while I'm thinking.
You were born vegan.
No. No, I wasn't. How was I born vegan? Because my mother ate meat while I was in the womb. Therefore, that nutrition from that meat was passed along to me via the umbilical cord. And so, no, I was not born vegan.
You never wanted to hurt animals. It's not your fault you were brainwashed to do so, in the same way that the killers who took over the planes were brainwashed.
Okay.
You are no different than them.
I think maybe I am a little bit, though. Because the thing is, I don't feel like me eating a cheeseburger is tantamount to me hijacking a plane and crashing it into a building.
Like you, they were born vegan. They never wanted to hurt anyone either, yet they were taught to do so by a racist, speciesist society. The good news is that you can go back to your roots and be vegan again. You can stop paying people to hurt animals on your behalf. And the next time you're on a plane, let your last meal there be a vegan one. You can order it in advance when you book your ticket.
Wow. Man. So I am seeing some people in the chat say that this woman is thought of by many to be purely a grifter and an attention seeker, and I can certainly see that. However, I don't really think that this is too far-fetched, because I've definitely seen vegans compare photos of chickens in a factory farm to photos of like Jews in the Holocaust and things of that nature, which I think is pretty disgusting and offensive. I've seen them compare the treatment of animals to the treatment of slaves in the American South. I think there's been so many instances where we've seen vegans compare, the treatment of animals to the treatment of human beings throughout history. So it's really not that far-fetched to believe that this video is completely, sincere. And if it is, I just have to say, I don't want to say that I don't think she should be allowed to put that opinion forth. I just want to say that I think that opinion is absolutely absurd to the max. I think it's probably one of the most ridiculous things a human being could ever intellectually advance as an argument. I think it's almost more ludicrous than the religious doctrines that I mock on a pretty regular and consistent basis here on this channel.
On October 6th, the Deep Fat Fried live show and meetup is coming to Las Vegas, featuring TJ, Scotty, Paul's Ego, musical guest The God Bombs. Get your tickets now, available in the description section down below. Be there or be dead. Or square.
At the end of the day, I do think that at least when it comes to religious doctrine, there's a long and vaunted tradition of people believing in that, and everyone around you believes in that. And so there is a tremendous amount of brainwashing that goes into becoming a religious person. And it's very normalized, and in some societies it can be very difficult, even if you do have doubts about the faith. It can be very difficult to actually voice those doubts. But when it comes to vegans, vegans are a minority group. They came to this stupid shit on their own, which I think is pretty impressive. Like, they weren't brainwashed into being vegans by those around them or pressured into it. Like, they literally decided, of their own volition to be vegans and to advance these ridiculous arguments that try to say that, the 9/11 victims on some level deserved to be destroyed because they were themselves killers and their deaths resulted in the salvation of so many animals that would have otherwise been eaten by them. I don't know. I consider myself pretty firmly speciesist, I guess. I do hold human life as being more valuable than animal life simply because we've reached a higher level of cognizance. I still think we could use some improvement, but I do think that we're a little bit higher up. And, we're capable of reason. Doesn't mean we always do it. In fact, sometimes we don't. I think a lot of times we don't. But I don't know. I mean, I've seen these vegans, they get so fucking pushy as well. Like, they don't seem to know how to argue for their own position in a way that's rational and consigned to, like, emotional reasonability. Whenever I talk to a vegan, I always feel the same way I do when I'm talking to a Christian who's trying to terrify me of the torments of hell. Because they never fucking argue fairly. They're always trying to argue from some ultra emotional angle where it's like, if you don't become vegan, you're a monster because, these industries are so horrible. And I think it's such a weird point to make at this juncture in human development, because it's pretty obvious that with the way that technology is moving right now, like, farming animals for meat is not going to be a thing for very much longer. It's just not going to be the most cost-effective way of doing that. It's not going to be the most environmentally friendly way of doing that for much longer. So I think that this kind of like stuff is already on its way out naturally. So they're fighting a losing battle because people are never really going to give up their meat consumption, and this unethical aspect of meat consumption wherein we're, killing animals to consume their flesh is probably going to be coming to an end within my lifetime, within your lifetime. So I don't really understand the tremendous impetus in their minds to make this moral argument to me. Because, like, lab-grown meats, like, that technology is getting better and better. And when that technology reaches its apex, it's obviously going to be way more efficient and effective to do that than it is to raise livestock just to fucking, kill them. The meat industry didn't slaughter less chickens because 9/11 happened. Not a single animal was saved. I mean, yeah, that's also true. Like, 3,000 people, as far as like no industry was like, hey guys, we're 3,000 people died in a tragedy, so we need to make less product. No one's doing that. There's not a single person that's doing that. I don't mean to say I agree with her. She's insane, but it seems to me sentience is the standard for valuing life. I think lab-grown meat will be a more ethical replacement. That's what I think too. And look, I don't want to come across like I don't care at all about the plight of animals that are in factory farms. I think that factory farms, you know, from my perspective, are a direct outcropping of overpopulation and an overconsumption of meat in our diets. While I do think that, you know, human beings do naturally eat meat, I believe that we are omnivorous by nature, and I believe that eating some meat benefits us. I do think we eat far too much of it, and I think that the demand for meat, coupled with industrialization and overpopulation, is what has led to this crazy standard of, you know, these factory farms, which are bad for the environment, which are miserable for the animals that are, you know, raised there, and they way more prone to disease and things of that nature as well, and psychologically damaging to the workers who work there. So I'm no fan of the factory farm model. But I don't think human beings should avoid eating meat. I think there's that it's natural for us. I don't think that, you know, if you look at our primate relatives, you know, like chimpanzees are not vegans. Gorillas are not vegans. They eat far more plant material than they eat meat. But when meat is available, they consume it. So there's no reason to believe that we're some kind of weird exception, that, you know, unlike all of our ancestors, we are meant to be, you know, these vegetarian creatures. Legumes should be the primary source of protein. I mean, I don't care what the primary source of protein is, but it probably shouldn't be meat. But the reality is that just like we now have easy access to sugars and fats and salts, we now have easy access to meats. And that's due to industrialization and, you know, advanced techniques of, you know, creating and refining and distributing these substances. You're making an argument from nature. If we are naturally a certain way, we should remain that way. Fallacious. I'm not saying that we should remain that way. What I'm saying is that you can't make an argument that we're naturally vegan, as the vegan teacher was making. The argument that we are born vegan, which to me implies that we are, you know, the human animal in and of itself is naturally vegan. I'm saying it's not. I'm saying that there's no good reason to believe that we are. Obviously, human beings are capable of defying nature. But in this instance, like, what is the impetus? Especially as lab-grown meats seem like they're right around the corner. Like, you have a population that has a tremendous demand for meat. And we all like it. Even the people who eschew it, for the most part, like it. Now, there are some people out there, I guess, don't care for meat, but most human beings do, as evidenced by the sheer amount of consumption of meat we do as a species. You have these ethical dilemmas that are presented by our meat consumption that I can admit are valid. And you have these environmental things as well. But it seems like the solution to that is technologically right around the corner, and in fact has already begun implementation. So there's to me, in my mind, is no great moral impetus to become vegan at this point, because it seems like the day and the age where animals need to be raised up and slaughtered so that we can have meat seems like it's probably going to be a thing of the past within my lifetime, or at least is going to become exceedingly rare within my lifetime. I mean, I like meat, sure. I mean, I'll confess that I have a horse in this race, and maybe one in my tummy. If your only argument against me is that I'm like biased in some way, I mean, I'll admit to it. Doesn't make me wrong. The soon this won't be a problem, so just don't talk about it argument feels really weird. Does it? I typically don't waste too much of my mental energy on problems whose solutions are readily apparent. So I don't know. How does that seem weird? Like, if there's like a deranged serial killer on the loose, but I know for a fact that he's going to be shot in the head tomorrow, I'm probably not going to worry about him too much because I know the problem is like on the cusp of being solved. Like what? How is that a weird argument? I mean, and especially coming from a fraud. I mean, oh well, you're a chicken. That makes sense. You just don't want to fucking end up in my KFC bucket. That makes sense. I get it now. TJ, what is the weirdest meat you'd be willing to try? Don't say human. We already know. I mean, I've eaten rattlesnake. I've eaten quail. I've never eaten like something too exotic like a lion or anything like that. But I suppose I would if given the opportunity. Follows for me that getting the majority of global society to change their diet over a moral issue that will cease to exist on its own would be a mass waste of energy for all parties involved. Right. I mean, that makes perfect logical sense to me. I don't really know what the objection is to that. I mean, if you want to deny, like if you have some scientific evidence that the solution to this problem is not as imminent as I believe it to be, then go ahead and furnish me with that. But don't make the argument that it's somehow weird that I would argue that. You know, because based on what I know, yeah, we're almost done with this shit. Would you eat monkey meat? I mean, I guess. I don't know. I mean, if it's already there, if the monkey's already dead and someone's just like, yeah, here's some monkey meat, I'd be like, I'd probably try a bite at least.